So one of the things that I want to emphasize that we've gained from our healing process and from leaving the dysfunctional families that we were a part of and leaving the toxic church that we were a part of is the loss of family members. Both my husband and I are no contact with our parents currently, no contact with what living grandparents we have, and no contact with one or several siblings. We both have experienced that, as well as, extended family, cousins, those who have deliberately chosen to protect the people who were being abusive towards us, and some who weren't protecting them, but simply have had to limit contact because it is a fragile situation. And so I don't judge any, I want to say right now, I don't judge any of our family members, cousins, extended relatives, people who don't feel free to reach out to us and be as close to us as they can. That's their choice to make. And I don't judge them because it kept me there for a long time too. But we did lose a lot of the family that we were born into. And that was a very difficult thing to handle. It was really hard, and I've talked about that in some of my other videos. But I want to say that God has surprised us with new people and with people who have reached in and loved us, even though they didn't have to. We weren't related to them, we weren't connected to them in any way. But there have been new people who've come into our lives in the last few years. I think about women in my support group that I started going to even before we left the church we were a part of, women who helped me to recognize, who were willing to step in and say, hey, your family doesn't seem to be very supportive. There were the women who helped me to see the reality of things. And then they were there when those things required us to take drastic action and to make decisions. And they stayed with me through it. And they reached out to me on a daily basis. Some of them helped financially. Some of them prayed with me. Some of them just let me vent to them when I needed to. And so those women were there for me. And then we started going to a new church. And through this new church in the new area that we're in, that we moved to, we've had so many mentors, so many peers, so many older adults than myself and my husband who have been willing to just pour into us, even though we can't give much back right now, who have just reached in, who have been the stability and the support and the village that we needed and have stepped in. I think of one couple who has just been incredibly supportive of our kids and always is happy to see them. And when I broke my wrist last Christmas, the wife came over and just stayed with our kids when I had to go into surgery so that my husband could be with me. And the husband's met with my husband several times to just encourage and be there for my husband as he was struggling with some of these things. And these are people who I didn't know 2 years ago when we left the church we were a part of. And yet they have already shown themselves to be so loving and kind and accepting that it's just been possible to go very deep very quickly because they just love on us and in a way that is without expectation or demand. And that's something that was really new for us, and we didn't expect because we had not really experienced that very much in the previous church we were a part of. We've met new friends. We have peers now, other parents who are close to our age, who have kids close to our kids' age, other families that are walking through this parenting journey. And that was something that we really had none of almost at all in the previous church we were a part of. We were the only family with young children at our local gathering. And most of the other families that would have been in our peer group were far spread across different parts of the country, far away. And so there was not really any opportunity to connect with other families who were in the same space we were for the most part. And we were discouraged from seeking those kinds of peers outside of the church we were a part of. And so it's been such a gift to discover that not only are there friends and people who can become brothers and sisters and people who can become nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles and grandparents to us, but to discover that those relationships are even healthier because they're not based on a demand or insistence on agreeing with a certain set of teachings. They're simply based in love and wanting to treat others in a sacrificial and loving way. And so that's something that surprised us, because in our previous toxic church that we were a part of, it was very much, there was very much a fear of people who weren't a part of that group, and a thought that they would never be able to give you the kind of support you had where you were. Now, we've just found that's not true, that there are amazing people who God brings into your life to take those support roles that every person needs.